Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Thanks so much for tuning in this week. I've been getting a lot of questions about how I make skin look so perfect and magazine cover like, So what I'm going to be doing today is a real-time retouching. We're going to be editing her skin, her hair, anything you see in this picture, and we're going to make it look almost perfect. It's more on the natural end, but I took a bunch of pictures and this is the one we're going to be editing. So without further ado, let's get right into it. The first thing I do is look at the picture overall here in Lightroom, and I already did some changes, defined it, brought up the clarity, and you can see it made a huge difference here in the eyes and the cheeks here. You see the difference. Then I just go straight into File and Edit in Photoshop, Continue, and that is where the magic happens. Now I always make a copy of the layer that I'm working with, so here I'm just going to make a background copy, and I'm using frequency separation. I have the action here, and that's just going to load on there. It's going to bring 2 extra, right here, continue. It's going to bring up 2 extra layers right here. You could see them. It's going to ask a few questions, continue. And there you go, it makes a folder with everything. So it has both. This is low frequency, and then we have high frequency. It's basically just the color. We're gonna make everything, any redness smooth out, and then the HF is high frequency. That's gonna be texture. So I'm just zooming in here, and we're going to get a real close-up. We're going to use the lasso tool. Here I'm just making sure it's kind of soft, so I'm feathering it to 6 and okay on the Gaussian blur. You can basically just eye this wherever you see that it matches up. And so I'm going to go around the entire face, and don't forget the arms, the back, anywhere you see skin, always smooth it out. People always end at the face and then forget about the rest. Make sure you hit every part of skin you can. So what this does is basically get rid of any uneven skin tones. You can see cheeks are usually red, you get a little blushing color. If you have any other, if you get a tan or something, this will kind of take care of blending out your skin tone, so it's more like one color. This is also going to get rid of some highlights and the darkness in your skin, so we are going to fix that up later on. But right now we're just blending in, and make sure you're using the feathering tool so that it's not so harsh. You may not see a huge difference right away, but I'll show you in just a second the before and after of just doing this one step. It makes a huge difference. I kind of just use the tools on my keyboard, so it looks like I'm going a little quick, but you can get used to doing the same thing. On Mac, I use FN and Shift. I have the MacBook, so you have to hit FN so that the F keys at the top show up. So it's Shift and then F6 for feather, and then I set my Gaussian blur to show up with Command Shift G. But that all depends on you. If not, you can go up to filter and then Gaussian blur. So here is where we're going to start using the second layer. This is going to be for texture. Here I'm zooming in, and oh, this is supposed to be current layer. I used to make that mistake all the time. So I'm using Option to click and then letting go, and here I am just smoothing out the skin. You could see it's kind of just replicating what it's copying from. This is just a stamp tool. So I'm getting rid of all of these, a little bit here. So this just gets rid of any texture, unwanted texture. This is a birthmark here. I don't want to get rid of that. These here are enlarged pores, so that's different. I'll get rid of that just to make it look a little more perfect. You can leave them. It totally depends on what you're doing. But for the sake of showing you how I do it, this is what I do. I get rid of any pores, if anybody has blemishes, Anything like that, I make sure I get rid of. Usually in this step you can also take care of under eye bags, but I kind of like a little bit of shadow that she has going on. Sometimes I do take it away, usually I do, but just for this picture I didn't. Since I'm going for a more natural look, I'm leaving some pores that I see kind of just there, and I'm not going to go too harsh on contour later on. I'm just going to leave it super simple. We're not adding makeup or anything. I want it to be soft and just that natural glow. This is probably the most hectic part of the whole editing process because it's just hitting option and clicking all over the face until you're done. And if people have, more problematic skin, this is going to take longer. So just take your time and, listen to some music while you do it because it's going to take a while. We're going to get rid of this redness over here and these pores. Here there's a lot, so I'm kind of just going over the entire thing and it'll soften it no matter where I click really. This is kind of just an overall, touch here, touch there type of thing. And it's getting rid of some of the highlight, as you can tell, but that's okay because I'm going to take care of that later. Some of these under the nose. And if you wanted to see a little bit more precise what you're doing, sometimes I hide the LF by clicking the little eyeball on the layers tab, and you'll see a lot more definition in, if they have any pimples or blackheads, anything like that, you'll definitely see it. It's like HDR. I'm just getting rid of some hairs now on the edges. This redness becomes a little bit more pink, just stamp tooling it to kind of just reduces the intensity of the redness. And that looks pretty good. Do a few down here. And now it's also important to look at other parts, just like I said before, not just the face, but anywhere else that could have imperfections, because skin is skin. Sometimes people have back acne, chest, anywhere they have any problematic skin, you do have to look around, because if you have perfect skin on your face and then the back doesn't look as perfect, then that's going to look weird and it's not going to match. So here's before and after. If you actually pay attention, you could see the different colors. Now I'm making a curves layer, and this is going to be for highlights and shadows. Right now I'm going to bring it up. As you can see, this is way too bright, or well, not my style. So this is just going to take care of the highlights, and I'm going to Command I, it's going to invert it. So it's bringing it back to the original color. And now I'm going to make another one that's going to be for the shadows. Okay, so right there. You can see obviously this is too dark now. Command I again and original color. So I'm just gonna type in highlights. Okay, so now I know which one's which. For these, you're just going to use a paintbrush. This is a mask. So what I'm gonna do is just use a white paintbrush. Since this is black, you can see it says layer mask thumbnail. That's black, so I'm going to use white to paint on top of it, and I'm going to bring the opacity up a little. You could bring your brush to whatever setting you like, and I'm just going to hit all the highlights. You can see all the parts that are, I like the white part of the eye to be brighter, so I always hit that part. So anywhere all over the skin that you see, even the hair I'll hit in a bit. The lips right here are important. There's always that gloss. I always ask my models to wear lip gloss because it just looks nice, that kind of shine. Anywhere. The nails you can hit also. Literally anywhere in the picture you see highlights, you can hit with this. You want this brush not to be too harsh, so if you hit the top left of your screen where it has the paintbrush, you can click a softer brush, not a hard edge brush. I'm gonna get right here, there's highlight, and I'm not gonna get the shirt because this is already way too bright, so I'm not going to overexpose, you know, this area right here. I'm just gonna leave that like that. Now the hair, all the highlighted parts, you don't have to do the hair, but I just love to see the difference in contrast. A little bit here, and then the flower, I'm gonna do just the parts real quick that are already highlighted. That looks good. All the cheekbones and the arch of the eyebrow, very important. All these little places right here. See, they're minor details, but they really matter. These little white parts in her eye. The waterline, I really like doing too. Pops the eyes out. And I go back and forth a little bit because my opacity is not at 100, so it just keeps building it up. And here's before and after. Huge difference, just like that. And now we're gonna add some shadows. So this is gonna be the contrast. Same thing, paint white all on the dark parts. So this is literally like digitally contouring, and you could put it wherever you want. I just put it everywhere on the shadows. My opacity is still at 43. You could bring it up, bring it down, your flow, whatever works for your picture. I also like to have a pouty lip, so I bring it under right here, right between the lip also. Oh, brought out the pen tool. Okay, so right between the lip, under, make it, you know, look a little more bubbly. Usually light comes from over top of the model, so you want to make sure you hit all the parts that are hidden by something on top, like this line right here is hidden by the eyelashes, so you want to make that real dark. You can even do here the eyebrows just to make them a little more defined. I could put a little bit of shadow in there, both of them. And now here the hair, same thing we did with the highlight, but now we're going to do the darker parts. So again, this doesn't have to be so precise because it's kind of just, you know, wherever the light hits. I'm going to bring this a little bit lower and do this part that's not so dark. Just hit that like that. The hand, remember, don't forget other parts of the skin that are not your face. You still have to contour everything else. Okay, so that looks good. A little bit more here. Fingers, all these little highlights, that's important. This entire side of her face is darker. Right here inside of the flower, I'm going to get a little bit just to add contrast. Okay, that looks good. And before and after, huge difference. Love it. Okay, so I'm going to make one folder for everything, and before and after again, already super smooth. Okay, so I'm gonna make another layer, and this is gonna be separate just to fix the eyes, make them brighter. And then I'm hitting Command Option Shift E on Mac to make all the layers kind of combine onto this one. You can only really do this once you know you like everything. And now we're gonna liquefy. So I'm gonna hit Filter and Liquefy. Let that load. I'm using my mouse. Usually I'll use a stylus, but I have to manually put the pressure. And I'm just shaping around. You want to shape their hair, if there's any bumps on their head, you know, depending on the hairstyle they have. I'm gonna move the flower up and her cheeks. You can kind of just play around whatever you want. I'm gonna make her shirt come out a little bit more in the bottom. And I'm gonna bring the pressure up for the flower just so that we can move it quicker. It just looks a little fallen, so I want to bring it up just a smidge. This is all trial and error. You can press the preview right here and you can hit before and after so you can see what's going on. You could do anything you want here. You can always go back. I'm gonna bring up her eyebrow just a little bit to arch it. No, a little bit bigger. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, just a tiny bit before and after. Yeah, just to bring up the arch. And we can actually do her eye right here. Bring it up. So whatever you do to one side, you do to the other, before and after. Okay, that looks really good. Yep, the flower looks good and everything. So I'm gonna press OK. Let that load, and now that's what your picture should look like. Well, not the same as mine, but whatever edits you did should reflect on here. So before and after you could see again. And now I made a layer, again a copy of the one we just created. Just in case we mess up, we can always delete the one we're working on. So I'm gonna fix this hair. It's kind of all over the place here. Usually you try to fix as much as you can before you take the picture, but just in case, you can do it after. I'm using the stamp tool and I'm just going to option click and move things around. It's kind of trial and error again. If anything, you press Command Z, go back. I like using a mix of the stamp tool, the lasso tool with content aware. Sometimes I'll just use the automatic one, like the eraser, or just anything you could see works for you depending on how crazy the hair is. Right now the stamp tool is working for me. Kind of just play around with it. Here's a before and after so far. It's looking good. You see the difference. So you can always see new little hairs. Now I'm using the lasso tool and I'll do some content aware. I'm gonna feather it just to 6, content aware here, and that gets rid of it as you can see. So I'm gonna do that for a few of them over here. And if it doesn't work, I'll move back to the stamp tool and just, you know, back and forth until I get what I want. It's important to, if you're using the content aware tool, kind of just do small selections, because the bigger, the harder it is for, the computer, well, the software, to catch what you're trying to do. So the smaller the better, especially for hairs like this, because if not, you'll get a huge chunk that doesn't even belong there. These tiny little hairs here make a huge difference once you fix them, and it really isn't that hard, like it takes your time. You have to do everything slowly, but once you get all these little hairs out of the way, even though they seem like, you can't really see them, but overall you'll see the difference once you're done. Once you start editing everything on the head and then you realize there's just a few hairs, you kind of just have the urge to fix the rest of them. So this is what I'm doing right now, just cleaning up all the little hairs I see around there. So as you can see right there, Content Aware does a really good job at taking care of these. So I definitely, if you're starting, you could probably just start with that right off the bat. And if it doesn't work, then you can work with the stamp tool. Totally up to you. Here's a before and after so far. I kind of just go back and forth with the before and after, so that I can make sure it's not looking too wild. Sometimes edits you could kind of see, so you have to make sure that you're not overdoing it. Sometimes you want to leave stray hairs, because it looks more natural that way, but sometimes you can get rid of random super thin hairs that you don't see that much anyway, like this one right here. Now for these hairs right here, I'm going to do a little bit of lasso tool and Content Aware, but I'm going to have to do something a little bit more exhausting there. So I'll get these real quick. I honestly love editing more than taking pictures sometimes, just because I have a go back button when I'm shooting sometimes and I don't like the idea, I don't really know what to do. But when you're editing, you can, always refer back, you can always change, but once a photo shoot's done, you can't really go back. There's no going back. These hairs here are a little annoying. Okay, so now I'm getting rid of the hairs on the outside, and I'm gonna be using Magic Wand tool. Oh, that selected too much. I'm gonna bring the tolerance down, maybe to 1, 0. I don't know if 0 will work. Yeah, no. We're gonna have to bring it up, maybe to 5. Yep, that looks good. So I'm hitting Shift so I can continue to select more. And that looks good. It doesn't have to be too perfect. So here I'm hitting Fill again, and we're going to do Content Aware. Yep, so that took care of that. And now we're going to do the same for all the other hairs, still using the Magic Wand tool. Again, you press Shift to keep selecting more. You can bring the tolerance up or down. It's just basically how much of the same colors being selected. Basically, if you have different shades of, right now I have peach, So how many shades of peach do I want the artificial intelligence, to pick up? Because each pixel is going to be a different color, so it's basically just asking me, do I want each pixel that I pick up to be the exact same color, or can it find colors that are similar? So I'm just going to do the same thing here. Content aware, okay. That did an okay job. I still see some hairs, but you see the before and after. Okay, I'm going to zoom in again and just get rid of these. Okay, so content aware did the most it could, but I still have a line here, so I'm going to use the stamp tool to get rid of that. Okay, that looks good. I'm just going to get rid of this little stem because it's popping out. And now we have these hairs back here. It's kind of bothering me, so we're going to get rid of them. The hardest part usually is behind the neck because I should be doing a little bit of shadowing on the back right at the edge of the neck, but sometimes it just doesn't look weird. It doesn't look right. So her neck looks a little chopped off here because I have the opacity down. So I'm just gonna bring it up and make this a harder edge. Try it again. Okay, that looks better. Just gonna bring it all the way up. Okay, yeah, that looks a little bit better. It does look a little wonky, but I'm just gonna leave it like that because if I start editing that and bringing in shadows, it's just gonna take way longer to get this edit done. Now I'm just going to get rid of this little gap here, and then we'll do the hairs. Here's the before and after again so far. My favorite part about editing is just seeing this before and after, because I feel like, I'm doing something. So now these hairs I want to get rid of. I'm just going to select them real quick. Just a rough selection. And I'm going to be using the stamp tool here, bringing up all the color from the chest, color from the forehead, and it's just going to match because it would be the same color anyway. And then we'll bring down her hair so it's not too high up. Like everything else with the stamp tool, this is trial and error, so I'm here deleting some parts and redoing others. You kind of play with the highlights too, because as you can see here, it's like darker than here. So I'm just playing around, seeing what works. So here you can go as high as you want with the forehead because we're going to be bringing the hair down like this, and so it'll take care of that edge piece. I still have a little bit here, and then you can bring down the hair again. you could kind of just fix the entire edge. Okay, that looks good. So we won't have to deal with those little hairs anymore. I'm just gonna bring these in so it doesn't look so, straight edged. And then we'll bring the hair right back on top. There we go, that's looking better. Yeah, so as you can see, that's following her original hairline anyway. I'm just going to stamp tool a little bit. Yep, a little bit smoother. I feel like I just have to stare sometimes, and then if I stare too long, I start not liking what I edited. I'm gonna take this little piece here and just drag it over. This is the content aware move tool, and just dragging it over top here. I just want to make it a little bit darker, so I'm going to get rid of anything that's not part of that piece of hair already. Just erasing, well, deleting, and moving it right over top this lighter part. I don't do this obviously for each portrait I do, but I'm just trying to kind of accommodate to this picture specifically, and this is what I would do. Now obviously this is way too dark, but I just wanted to make sure I got it in the right place, and I'll bring the opacity down. And now I'm just going to take the eraser tool and erase the edges a little bit that I don't need to be so rough. And right here where it was originally a little lighter anyway, just make it softer, less noticeable that you edited. So right here you can see it's just a little bit darker, fills in the scalp a little more. So here I'm just going to quickly make a layer for the eyes. I'm going to select that green part of her eyes and make a highlight curves layer, just like we did for the highlights on her skin. Because it is a black mask layer, I'm going to get the white marker or brush, and I'm just going to paint over top. So that's obviously super bright. I'm going to get rid of these edges over here. It's super bright, but you don't have to worry about that. Obviously you can bring it up and down. That's the beauty of mask layers. You don't have to go back and do it all over again. You can just adjust it from your layers panel. This really doesn't matter, the edges that I'm doing, but I kind of just wanted to clean it up. Though when you just zoom out, you're not really going to see it. Okay, that looks good. It's all highlighted. So those eyes look gorgeous, but I just wanted them to be more green. These are just light. So that you could just leave it that way, but I'm going to bring the opacity down so it's not too light. And then you can see here I can adjust, make them darker, lighter. I'm going to make it more of an S curve and bring this down. maybe up. This you could kind of just play with however you like. Yeah, I like that better. So I'm going to Command on this and grab another layer. This is going to be a hue with saturation layer, and here I can kind of just choose what color. Here you can see they change all kinds of colors. I want it to be a green, so I'm going to bring it around here, and that looks good. I'm going to bring up the saturation. You could bring up or down the lightness. Obviously that's too bright, so you can bring it to wherever you like. I usually don't go too far on the sliders. If you go all the way to the left or the right, they look crazy for anything. But you know, if you're going for crazy, there you have an option. So I'll go back and forth to see what I like a few times before I actually finalize, because you're better off taking a little time now than going back and having to edit after you have already saved your picture. So that's basically it. Yep, that looks pretty good. I'm gonna make one more layer so that I have everything on one. Command Option Shift E, and I'm just going to fill in her brows really quick. I usually do this for every model because eyebrows are not perfect, unless I guess they fill them in, but I always kind of just clean them up a little bit or add some hairs. So right here I just want to kind of extend the hair she already has, not necessarily fill in with a pen. So just stamp tooling. And the outline I made is just a general shape, but since they're individual hairs, it'll kind of not be perfect. And here I'll just extend. It's a little too much. You can always go down the opacity so it's not perfect. Yep, that looks good. And that's about it. The other eyebrow you can't really see, so I'm just going to leave it at that. And I'm going to erase just this a little bit so it's not too perfect. A little bit lower opacity, soften the brush. You could take more time and make them individual hairs, but I just wanted to fill it in a little bit. You can see before and after. So obviously it looks super perfect compared to the original photo, and they're both gorgeous. Alright, so there you have it, a professionally edited soft skin look. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe down below, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye!